And welcome back to our candidate sit-downs for the primary election 2013. Deidre Callan off camera. On camera is Tracy Moore. She's running for City Commissioner of Streets and Public Improvement. Tracy, thank you for taking some time.
Thank you so much for having me.
First off, take a couple of minutes to briefly tell everybody about you, your background, why you're running, and why you feel you are the best candidate.
Okay. I have lived in Shelton for 27 years. My husband and I were looking for a place that we could raise our children, that had a downtown, that had proximity to other services, that had a close distance to a big city, as well as the nature that surrounds us, Hood Canal, the mountains, the ocean. So we fell in love with the downtown area, with the character, and decided that we wanted to raise our kids here and become involved in this community. My background is, after very few years here, the comprehensive plan was coming into effect, and so as the city was coming into compliance with that, I volunteered on several planning advisory boards. From there, I got involved in the historic preservation ordinance as that was happening, and served on that board for 20 years. I went from there and got a job at the city in the planning and economic development public works department. So I worked with many of the projects that happened during the boom years, as well as was part of the ground floor on some of our public improvements that are being completed now and that are happening. It takes a long time to do those. So I'm really well versed in all of the issues of planning, of regulations, of zoning. I understand the reasons for that, and I also understand the difficulties that sometimes are perceived by investors. And so I have a really good working relationship with many of the people who have invested in our city and have done projects, and I've worked successfully with them. As part of working at the Permit Center, too, I got to fill in at utility billing, and so I'm well aware of some of the challenges faced by many of our residents who have a difficult time each month paying their utility bills. After I worked for the city, I went over to Mason County and worked in their development department as a certified permit technician and a permit specialist. So there again, I've been saturated in learning and knowing about development and the issues that are faced by both sides of the table on that. I also have, as well as being on the Plan Advisory Boards and the Historic Preservation Board, I'm on the State Certified Local Government Task Force, which is an organization that promotes redevelopment of existing buildings and keeps us informed about grant opportunities and investment opportunities, and as well as tax incentives and the benefits that those have for the cities, not only for character, but tourism, tax dollars. It's good for the economic development of the city to have those dollars coming in. So besides that, I've also worked as an advocate for local business and small business. Even though I have not owned a business, I've been a very active member through the years, trying to foster a real sense of community pride in our local businesses. I was very active back in the day on Old Town Shelton, which was during the time that we were part of the Main Street program, working and promoting relationship between residential and business at that time. And currently I am on the SAVOR committee, which is a chamber committee. The acronym is Shelton Alliance for Viable Economic Revitalization. And we're focusing specifically on the downtown area, getting ready for the new growth up at the Shelton Hills area. So, the reason I am the best candidate for the job is that I have vast experience and a passion for leading our city into a new economic, healthy growth. And I feel like we can really take advantage of some of our natural attributes and change the focus of our city, not identify ourselves as a poor, low-income, struggling city, but as a charming place that people will want to live and invest.
Okay. So the most obvious problem in Shelton is the condition of the city streets. If elected, do you have a proposal or concept that would fund fixing the problem? Would that include an increase in property taxes? Is there a way to pass the cost to those who use the streets but don't live in the city?
Okay, well, first of all, I would like to say how very happy I am at the improvements that are happening now. I think we have to recognize that and build on that momentum. Fairmont Avenue should be paved by the end of this summer. We have new programs that are funded by Safe Routes to Schools, so there will be paving and sidewalks coming down Lake Boulevard. There are improvements happening around Evergreen School. We do have a lot more to do. We need to work in partnerships like the one that is happening now, the Highway 3 paving being done by the state and the First Street improvements that are being made. So there are lots of avenues for more grants. We have a momentum. We all know that once the projects start and are completed and are successful, that improves our chances for yet more grants. As far as raising property taxes, definitely we would hope not to do that. We have in the past run bond measures for city streets. Those have almost passed. The citizens have not at that time been willing to fund the street improvements. I think a part of this as well is that we really need to come up with a plan for maintenance so that our streets do not get in the condition they're in the future. It's much more effective to have sufficient maintenance so that we're not looking at a big deficit in the future.
And what about passing the cost on to those who use the streets but don't live in the city?
I'm not really sure what that question means. I guess I would not be in favor of toll roads. That's what they're doing up in Seattle. I don't think we would be ready for that. And I think that would be counterproductive to the efforts to bring tourists and business in. We want business. We do want people to come in and shop, and all of that goes to help our tax base. So I would be willing to hear other interpretations of that question.
Okay, fair enough. Now, where do you stand on building sidewalks when it comes to developing infill lots?
That is a question that has come up time and again during my experience working on city committees and working with the city. I remember back in the day a big outcry over the city requiring sidewalks to nowhere and how ineffective that was and how we'd never have sidewalks through our whole city if that was in place. Well, there was a recent sidewalk ordinance passed that would require infill lots to put in sidewalks and would also require sidewalks for any investment or rehabilitation of a building that is over 50% of the value of the building. And I have not heard one person at all not in favor of sidewalks. Everyone seems to recognize the value of sidewalks and how that reflects a quality community. It's more safe. It is one of the women who came to a recent commission meeting made the statement that sidewalks build neighborhoods and neighborhoods build community. And I think that's an excellent comment. I also believe very strongly that as people build their sidewalks, put them in, people use them and see the value that some of our existing sidewalks that you can't even walk on will be more valued, and we will be able to use those rather than stepping off into the streets. I believe that that is the best for our city, as well as I think we really have to pay attention to the fact that as part of that ordinance, it has become more effective, cost-effective for people putting in sidewalks because the city is shouldering part of the responsibility for putting them in, such as the engineering and stormwater plans. So it's a real win-win for developers and for our community at large.
Now, how do you feel about improving the downtown area? How would you improve the downtown area?
I, of course, realize that we need more businesses down here. We need to identify and recruit businesses that are viable, that add to the quality of our downtown. We need to look at all avenues of funding and incentives for people to reuse our existing buildings. There are many, many potential ways that we can do that through identifying what potential uses the buildings could have and looking around to see who wants to come here and giving them incentives to locate downtown and making it easy for them by helping out with the regulations, what they have to do in order to create a viable business.
Okay, I failed to finish the rest of my question.
Uh-oh.
It's my fault here. But do you have a...
You took a breath.
I'm sorry. That's okay. Do you have a vision for downtown? Is it more retail? Do we need something downtown to attract people downtown?
I have a very distinct vision for downtown, and I'm sure that many other people do. Back in the day, back in the 90s, before the comp plan was drafted, the citizens of Shelton got together and worked on a vision statement. And the comprehensive plan is based on the tenets that were identified in that. So I think it has to be a community effort. It would be great to see the citizens excited and feeling that they have a voice in what will happen downtown. For me personally, I live right downtown. I love the historic districts. I love the character. I would love to see access to the waterfront. I believe that is a huge, huge opportunity that we're missing. Walkable urban trails are very important. Businesses that reflect what our community says about itself, a positive identity. I believe strongly in the holistic nature of residential and commercial, and I believe protected neighborhoods will bring the people downtown who will support the local businesses downtown. Tourism is a great avenue, and we can market ourselves more positively in that direction too. We have great restaurants, and we need to have a place for the people to go shop after they eat.
What can the city do about its homeless problem?
The homeless problem has been a real hot button issue, and I believe strongly that many of the people who are identified as homeless are not necessarily homeless, but they are people who have poverty issues in their lives and they don't have jobs. And so I think we mistakenly identify many of the people as homeless, and that's borne out by the studies done by the social services that provide food and shelter for them. A recent, as of last week, study from the Chamber of Commerce identified that the homeless issue is many more people are becoming homeless, and there are less homeless people existing. So we are making strides in solving the actual homeless problem, but we still have poverty issues, and we need to do all that we can to supply housing, affordable housing, jobs, and family wage jobs, and jobs that they can be proud of. We also, some of this is very generational, and so we need to have training programs for people who are coming from that edge of society into a more mainstream society. I think we can do that through programs that give them basic training on job interviews, on how to have bank accounts, how to dress, appropriate grooming. Many times those things are lost, especially when it's generational and if there's a sense of hopelessness. I totally agree, and I'm totally enthused about the city forming a task force. They just agreed to do that last Monday, and I think it's time. It's overdue, and I'm looking forward to seeing the city work in partnership with the social services.
Where do you stand on the city's building abatement plan, and how should the city handle its derelict structures?
I think the abatement plan is way overdue, and the parts that have been adopted, I am fully in favor of. I do believe that we need to take care of our derelict structures. One positive reaction from this already is the fact that 2 of the top 10 structures identified for abatement are being looked at for revitalization. Commissioner Olson has purchased a home up on Harvard Street that was identified as one of the ones that need to be abated, and he's refurbishing it. It will be, on the market as a single-family residence in the near future. And so through that, we have gained the economic benefits of that. I just read in the newspaper this week that someone is looking at the building back on Grove Street that's been in horrible shape. So I really hope they're successful in that. I hope that they take advantage of any grants, potential preservation dollars that could be used as a way to help them out with the monetary needs they'll have.
What do you think of the concept to require landlords to have business licenses?
That's a really interesting one. Gosh, what a hot button issue that one is. I would have to have a definition, I guess, more definition of what that proposal would be. Obviously, the one that was proposed that has been adopted by City of Packwood did not go over well here as a starting point. I think we need to look at what constitutes a business, and rather than a landlord who happens to own maybe a couple of family homes they've inherited and renting those out. I think there's a difference in that definition. If it is indeed a business, I think it would be fair. I think there should be a number of residences or buildings that would constitute it as a business. Looking at it, I know that in our city, individual hairdressers each have to have their own license, so it seems kind of not an apples to apples comparison.
Now, other than the issues or topics that we've discussed here, what other issues or challenges do you see the city facing, and how would you propose to deal with that issue?
Well, we've talked about many of the issues that are very important, such as the continuation of infrastructure improvements and filling up our downtown buildings with businesses. My feeling is that our base problem in many cases is there has been, maybe through the recession, but also prior to that, sense that we are not a quality community. We accept that through the media. I look at restaurant reviews, and it's so distressing when I read something that says, "Oh, I was so surprised I went to Shelton and there are these great restaurants." So we need to rethink the way that we identify our city to ourselves. We need to look at the positive things and build on those. I believe that through communication and through getting our citizens involved and letting them know they have a voice. And we may not have all the answers, but there are people out there, and there are people that have suggestions that are valuable and viable. So we need to listen to them, encourage them to speak up, and revisit our vision statement to see what direction the city really wants to go, embrace that, and move forward.
Okay, Tracy Moore, candidate for City of Shelton Commissioner of Streets and Public Improvement. Thank you for taking some time.
Thank you. That went quickly.